I found it really difficult to have pleasure with a partner. So I worked on all these things and then brought them into helping other people. Cutting off that sexuality force for ourselves and to someone else really shuts down our life force. Like, it really inhibits our life force and how we express ourselves. This is your sexual energy. This is your pleasure. It's here. So you can share it with someone else. But firstly and foremost, it's ours. There are some people that are having pretty good sex, pretty good intimate life. They too could be having extraordinary intimacy. There's still often a myriad of possibilities and depth that is possible. Often our nervous system is quite already aroused. It may not be sexually aroused, but it's already aroused. So actually often what we need to do is bring that down. Come back to, what can I feel on my body? What is my heart? What is my genitals? What's happening with me?
Hello, beautiful souls. It is Sophia from Sacred You. Thank you so much for being here. Before we dive into today's podcast, I do have a small request from my heart. If our conversations ever resonate with you or have supported you on your journey, please subscribe to our channel or like this video. It helps us grow Sacred You, welcome more powerful voices into this space, and keep you connected to everything we share. Thank you for walking this path with us. Let us begin with today's conversation. So, welcome to the Pathways to Wellbeing. My name is Sophia from Sacred You. But more importantly, in today's episode, we have the beautiful Myola Woods. Myola, thank you ever so much for coming to join us to talk about a topic that is so relevant in today's world. I'm going to say such a needed thing, but not something that is spoken about. And that is your whole sensuality. Like I said, welcome. Can we start, Myola, first? Tell us about your beautiful self and how you got to where you are now.
Thank you, Sophia. It's always a joy to see you and talk to you. I'm always happy to be here. Thank you. A little bit about me. I always felt a little bit different, and I always felt like I knew more than I should. People say that would think that was great, but as a child, it's not very useful to know more than you're supposed to. And I grew up with some adults that didn't really like that the child knew more than them. And so I found myself into spirituality. I found myself into a world that was easier for me to be in than the world around me. And so that led me, I had a number of experiences. I got some special tuition with a great nun in the church. And then I moved into spirituality. And then people would come and see me, and they would have issues around whether it was their shoulder or their toes. And often it was about relationships, it was about intimacy, it was about sensuality, trauma. And so I discovered some more. I went and did some more qualifications in those areas so that I could work better, because I was working okay, work better with what was happening in the body and my own self. So I have a trauma background, and was always really interested in how that worked in the body. What did that close off? What did that open up? where did that put us? And so my journey with sensuality, how I get to here, because there's lots and lots of things I can do. But in the last few years, I've narrowed it down to mostly working with people's nervous systems, mostly working with sensuality and sexuality, because that's the core of who we are. That's how it's how we got here. That's what language we want to give it, our prana, our kundalini, our life force. So working with that, I was always really keen to find out how we expanded that, how we worked with that, and it's easy to be Zen sitting on the mountaintop. But I think we're here as humans now to be Zen, not all the time, but Zen with people in collaboration. So my own journey was I could really easy really easily be in a world with spirit or in a world with the universe, but found it a bit harder to work with humans. And
Yes.
so my journey has been to bring that the otherworldly knowledge that I have and be into this world, into the world that we live in on an everyday basis. And so some of that was, I found it really difficult to have pleasure with a partner. And so I worked on all these things. I worked on all these things and then brought them into helping other people. And I just love how much it changed me. I love how it changes the people that I see, that they go from being, you would see this in your world, they go from being narrow or small in themselves to these vibrant, alive beings that are shining a lot.
And thank you for explaining that. And it's so very true. First of all, can I just take a moment to honor you? Because you said working on yourself to overcoming all the trauma from your past and now being able to help others, because it's such a needed thing. And this is what I really want to get into and find very interesting. Let's talk about sex. Okay, the word sex. If it wasn't for sex, we would not be here. We know that. Right? It's a natural thing to do. But yet there's so much shame around it. There's so much disintegration or disconnection from it. And it's something that we have to do and go through the process rather than really enjoy it and experience the pleasure of it. So why? Like, where does that shame come from? And how does it?
Oh, where would we like to go? There's lots of things, isn't it? We can pull it from nowadays and say that it's the programming, it's the Hollywood, it's the porn. We can pull that from now, from here. We can pull that from historically women were not, most women, most of our society was run by men and not women. And then, I don't know, if we go back to we'll go with a theory on Lilith. Lilith was the first woman, and then Eve came along. We hear a lot about Eve, we don't hear about Lilith. Although I see there's a movie, I saw a little shorts that there's a movie coming about Lilith. I'm really keen to see what they have done with that and how they're going to portray it. So, and we can go with, is that what planet Earth is here for? So that we can be empowered, and we can empower, such a used word, but so that we can know. I don't think when I chose to come here, I certainly didn't read the fine print very well. Sometimes I feel like I need that Rumpelstiltskin fine print. Do you know what I mean? That bottom section of the thing. And it doesn't feel as disconnected and disembodied when we're reading it somewhere else. But when we're here and it's quite dense, that's our job. And I've always thought that we were here spiritualizing matter. And so changing that in our sexual energy is something that can transmute things very quickly. And it's also very powerful. At the current moment, we've just had the Me Too movement. We've got the Epstein files being released. There is a lot of change and there's a lot of churning coming with how we're seeing that. And people in power have always known that sex and sexuality is something very powerful. They've always done rituals and sacrifices and things around it. They've always known. That's not new knowledge to them. The Epstein files might be out now, but there have been people talking about these sorts of behaviors for a very long time. This is not new.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes such an impact on everyone, on especially every woman, even if you aren't caught up in the actual situations, like the Epstein files, but you can relate to it. And it has some impact with your body. You internalize that in some way. And therefore it affects your ability to experience pleasure.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And pleasure gets a bad name, doesn't it?
it does.
Pleasure gets a bad name. And certainly as women, we tend to get told that we are last on the list.
Yes.
And everyone else's pleasure, everyone else's needs come first.
Yeah.
And we don't find it within ourselves. When I work with women, what you were talking about, often women feel like they've got to, it's a chore to have sex, and it's to, one of the things I don't think we realize is that cutting off that sexuality for ourselves and to someone else really shuts down our life force. Like, it really inhibits our life force and how we express ourselves and how we. So one of the things I work with people is, this is yours. This is your sexual energy. This is your pleasure. It's here. It's not for, you can share it with someone else. Absolutely. And there is a great deepening in the pleasure often with that. But firstly and foremost, it's ours.
Yes.
And that often takes, when people come to see me and we work through the body and work through if the pleasure is their own, that's a real game changer. And that's a real embodiment, and often sad
Yes.
and grieving, because that has been either taken away from us or we haven't really understood, because sexual education at high school, or by the time they get to it, it's probably too late anyway. But it's often about, don't get a disease and don't get pregnant.
Absolutely. What can we do? Let's go into it as deep as you want to, okay? Because from, like I said, from way back in history, from trauma that we've experienced ourselves, from recent events that are happening in the world, we have women in general, not everyone, but in general, women have suppressed so much and cut off their ability to feel, their ability to orgasm, their ability just to feel pleasure. What do we do about it?
Firstly, we own it, that it's our pleasure, it's our, and we get to know our bodies. Having a sacred practice with ourselves that includes our eroticism or sensuality, whatever word you want to use, but that includes that. So a practice that, just like meditation, just like yoga, just like all of those things, this is a tool to explore. And I often think we think that it's all about the genitals.
Yes.
And yeah, it can be. You could choose that, it's fine. But there is so much more. There is so much more to being able to breathe and know our nervous system. People, I think sexuality is here, where, it is at the core of us. So when we work on our sexuality, when we work on why we don't want to orgasm or why we don't want to feel pleasure, and why, because that's often that is an intimacy issue. Often it's not the body itself, but it's an intimacy issue where we close down. We don't want to be, we are frightened, we are scared, and that could be from trauma, that can be from programming, that can be for a whole bunch of things. But we are scared of somebody seeing us that vulnerable. We're scared of seeing somebody else that vulnerable. And we're scared of the depth that will create. And we don't consciously know these things, Sophia. Like, we don't want, some of us do. We don't wander around and go, oh, I'm this or I'm that. We just have an inability to orgasm. We know we get to a peak and then we can't go any further. And often we can work on the peak and we can work on skills. The other place is that vulnerability, and what don't you want to show, and what is nervous in here. Lots of women have never seen their vulvas in aroused because we don't see it. And interestingly enough, the pictures that, unless you're particularly watching porn, but it's not a great visual or representation. We don't see a lot of aroused vulvas. So we don't see them engorged and changing colors and the depth and the juiciness of them. We don't see that. We don't see that in ourselves. The pictures we see are these tiny little things. And I think we get confused. And when we feel all these feelings, and if you do see, we don't always appreciate that this is how it's supposed to be. If I am aroused in life, if I'm juicy for life, if I'm into the feeling and the flow of life, then my sensuality and my orgasmicness is part of that. So we work a lot on those aspects. And funny enough, we clear out what's in the way of, we clear out what was vulnerable, and it might be that they got hurt or that they were vulnerable with someone and they said something. And then as we move through those things, then orgasm becomes less of an issue and they become multi-orgasmic. There is, lots of us focus on having an orgasm, where the opportunity is to be orgasmic all the time, to live in orgasmicness. Years ago, when I was first training and I was on the treadmill, and I started to notice if I breathed a certain way on the treadmill, that as I got, that I could feel all of this orgasmic energy running. And when I was doing plank with my personal trainer, and I messaged my teacher and I said, "What's this gym business?" I don't remember anyone telling me that the gym was erotic, whatever. And he said, after he laughed, and he said, "But that's the energy that you bring to everything.
Yes.
That's the
And
energy you bring to everything."
yeah, and I love that because it's really true. An orgasm is just energy. And just visual, having orgasms in gyms, maybe that's a new selling point for gyms. But it is just energy. And you can imagine what life would be like when we allowed ourselves to experience that energy throughout the day, just doing whatever it is to help us. It's, as you said, it's the flow of life. And I can really see how that, and if you could talk more on this, on how that energy can really help us for healing other things, healing all different parts of our life, and in for anyone who's on a spiritual journey.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Oh, where will I go first? Healing ourselves. We've talked about that sexual energy being so powerful and transformative, that bringing that to our health, to our well-being. And you can focus it. You could certainly do a practice. This is what I'm talking about, a sacred practice that involves candles, and it may or may not involve toys or massage oil. The other part is we can hold ourselves. We can hold and get to know, and there's different touch and different ways. It can be very extravagant, and it can also be very simple, of sitting and holding yourself. And then as that energy's flowing, the more energy, the more you have flowing, the better, just really simple things, the better blood flow you have around your body, the
Yes.
better, do you know what I mean? Like really simple things, the better you can feel things, the better, the less numb, the more in touch you are with yourself, means the more in touch you are with your intuition, because you know what's coming, what's the differences. And then when you're coming into that peak experiences, using that orgasmic energy for, we often use it for life. And then we can also use it for our own lives, into our own bodies, for healing, into projects that we want to create, into, when people work with me, often they think that they're going to get an orgasm. That's what they think. They're going to get they're hoping, their fingers are crossed, because often I'm usually one of the last people see. So they've usually done a lot of work by the time they get to me, because they don't know people like me are around. It's embarrassing. So by the time they get to me, they're hoping for an orgasm. What happens to their lives is that they have their lives turned to orgasms. So they have better connection with the earth. Often their bank accounts grow bigger. Their relationships get better with their partners, with their children, with their friends. Like there is, because it is at the core of us, it opens us up in all different ways. So we think it's an orgasm on the top, on the little tiny piece up here. It's like throwing a rock into a pond, and then it ripples out. So this little orgasm affects how we feel, our hormones for the day, how much oxytocin we've got floating around, how orgasm is known for being a reliever of pain. It gets blood flow flowing. It engorges all of the good bits. Like on a real simple level, it does all of those things, and energetically, it connects us to spiritual practice. It
Yes.
connects us to God or the universe, whatever word you want to use. That has been around for a very long time. People using their sexual energy to connect with God.
Mm.
And sometimes people use that in a celibacy done correctly is a really honorable spiritual pathway. People use it with other people as partners and they go really deep. People use it in other ways.
Yes, yeah. And it's incredible. And thank you for explaining that. And as you said, the people see you last, especially for women and men who are on a spiritual journey. And it's all, yes, I've got to heal, I've got to fix myself. And a lot of it, it's the head, meditate, do this, open up the heart and everything else. Where I can just imagine what would happen if we turn that around and started in literal terms from bottom up instead of the other way and things. And for someone who is just feeling numb and disconnected from their body and this whole thing that we've been talking about, what's the first step that they can take to rebuild their connection, to rebuild sensations?
Yeah,
Besides
so one of the
beautiful self.
so one of the first steps is slowing down, like really slowing down. And so that's we know that from meditation and that we should slow down and slowing out if we're meditating and slowing our breath brings us into our bodies and connecting with that. And then I see numbness. I really like numbness. I really like that when someone says to me, they're numb, that is it's a piece of gold that can be polished. That's something we found. Like we can grow from numb. Before you were numb, you didn't know that you weren't numb, that you couldn't feel. So numb for me is really great when we're moving into numbness because we can grow from there. We can grow. We can explore numbness and explore why and explore how. And there's a lot in that. And often once you start giving it some space, it actually moves. So you can feel the numbness. You also feel your body. What does it? I usually give people really. They sound like simple things, but what does the water feel like when you're washing your hands? Like, what does the soap feel like? What is the like? So if we want to bring more sensation to the body, it needs to be more sensitive. And why hands have lots and lots of neurons, it's one of the easiest ways to transfer, enhance our brain and to feel more is through our hands. That's why we use them. So it's for taking the time. It means that you've got to breathe. You've got to be slow. What am I actually feeling on my hands? Is it cold? Is it warm? Is it in between? Is it like little drops? Where's the things? What's happening on my hands? Can I feel it in between my fingers? Is it on the edge of my fingers? Ooh. What does it feel like as they're drying? If it's drying faster than the others. And I've just taken a 30-second or a 3-second hand wash to a sensory experience. And then just imagining that if your hands are this sensitive and you move them, you do the same sorts of things with your body. Where does the fabric touch your skin? Where does your hair touch? Where does, what's the wind doing? These are all bring us back to the present moment. It
Yes.
brings us back to our body. It make our breathing slows down. We are then in our parasympathetic nervous system, which is our relax, digest, restore nervous system. So we get to relax, soften. Soften is sometimes a better word. We get to soften. And the softer we are and the more calmer we are, usually then the more interested we are in sensuality and sexuality. Sometimes people think it's the opposite way around. But particularly in our current world, we are very busy. So often many of us are running around going, I've got to get the kids, I've got to get dinner, I've got to do the washing, I've got podcasts to do, most of us have like side hustles and we're busy.
Yes.
So it's often not that we want more of this to feel more aroused. We're actually often our nervous system is quite already aroused. It may not be sexually aroused, but it's already aroused. So actually often what we need to do is bring that down.
Yes.
And so if we come back to the moment, come back to the breath, come back to what can I feel on my body? What is my heart? What is my genitals? What's happening with me? And most of us don't think about our genitals very much during the day. We just forget, unless there's something wrong with them. Do you know what I mean? Unless they have something wrong with them, and then they're obviously screaming at us. But
Yes.
way before that, if we were to think about what's happening and what's happening today, what's in there?
Mm.
That might be a stretch, but we can go with our hands first. What's happening with my hands and what's my fingers feeling?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for explaining that. I call it now that we are living a pandemic of human doingness. And we forgot about the fact that we are human being. And that is for a particular reason, that life is actually all about being, slowing down, breathing, connecting with our feelings. But in today's world, and I don't think it's up to the individuals to actually make it happen, because with technology and AI and everything else, the doingness is just going to get more and more, because we all say that time is speeding up. We know time isn't actually speeding up. It's an illusion. It's the same as what it was 50 years ago. But it's because we're doing so much more because of technology that we no longer have time to be unless we allow ourselves. So thank you for,
Yeah, that's beautiful.
yeah,
It's beautiful. Thank you.
it's
Yeah,
really,
yeah,
it's just reminding, and just as you said, to take the time just to feel, just to stop and feel. Feel your hands, feel your skin, feel what it is, the clothes and everything else. Feel your breath. So thank you for that. And Myola, I would love to talk to you more. So please come back for part 2, because
I'd love to come back.
this is such a topic that, like we said at the beginning, it's so needed, but yet it's so avoided in today's world because of that shame, because of that thing. But yeah, let's start. I think we need to start a movement. I don't know. But I'd love to
Yeah,
know, Myola, and we will be putting all your links below. So for anyone who is listening or watching our podcast, please connect on those links, connect with Myola, check everything out that you do offer, because there is so much that you do, all your training and all your experience. And I'd love to know quickly, in your own journey, what's been like the most powerful shift that changed your understanding of pleasure and intimacy?
it's been the greatest shift. Is taking that what I saw outside, what I understood outside to be intimate and connection wasn't really what it was. And I had to unpeel that and work out. I grew up in a house that what was said was not necessarily what was meant. And so I've had to really unpack that and really come back to what is it for me? And that this pleasure, this connection, this is it for me. And how do I want to create with that? But I had a lot of peeling back to do to get there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you ever so much. And before we wrap up today's conversation, is there any other questions that I could have asked you?
I like you say, it's a topic that doesn't get talked about. So I suppose if I could leave your listeners, because they're bright, to have the conversations, do the exploration, even though it feels nervous, and like when we're starting something new and starting, particularly in this area, because even if you're somebody who's sitting, we've talked about trauma and we've talked about people who are on the opposite side. There are some people that are having pretty good sex, pretty good intimate life, and they too could be having extraordinary intimacy. Like they could, it's not just like sex is not just about putting two genitals together. Sex is a myriad of things. So we can often, there is, even if you're having what you would consider pretty good sex, there's still often a myriad of possibilities and depth that is possible, because it's an amazing tool to use. And I suppose if me saying it's an amazing tool, something in there rattles, it's because you know that it could be, but at this moment it's not.
Yeah.
And I think our soul knows that there's so much more possible than what we've put together with it.
Absolutely. And it's so true. So very true. So thank you ever so much for coming on the Pathways to Wellbeing. And just to start with a general conversation at the beginning, that even sex, sensuality, pleasure is truly all about well-being.
Totally.
It's a foundation
Yes.
of well-being.
Yeah.
It starts from the bottom and comes up. Thank you. Do come back and have another conversation, and thank you for joining us.
So great.
For everyone who is watching, click on those links below. Do yourself a favor, reach out to Myola and enjoy life, everything that life brings us, all aspects, by unblocking all that stuff that we've suppressed. So thank you.
Thank you.
As we wrap up today's episode of the Pathways to Wellbeing podcast, I would like to thank Myola Woods for such an interesting and thought-provoking conversation. Myola reminded us that even what we consider pretty good intimacy can expand into something extraordinary. Our soul knows that there is more available to us, more depth, more connection, more aliveness. And if today's discussion sparked something in you, even if something inside gently rattled, take it as a sign to explore further. Be sure to connect with Myola through the links below. With her deep training in nervous system work, trauma healing, sensual embodiment, and sexuality, Myola offers powerful guidance for those ready to move from numbness into aliveness. And at Sacred You, we are committed to creating a space where women from all over the world can support, uplift, and empower each other. Visit Sacred You's website and check out all our upcoming workshops, events, and community offerings. We are at www.sacredyou, that's the letter U, .love. And as always, if this episode spoke to you, please subscribe to our podcast, share it with a friend, or leave us a review. As Myola shared, sensuality and sexuality are not separate from well-being. They are the foundation of it. First, pleasure is yours. It is not a chore, not a performance, not something that belongs to someone else. It is your life force. Second, healing begins by slowing down, by reconnecting with the body. And third, orgasmic energy isn't just about sex. It is creative, spiritual, and transformational energy. Until next time, stay grounded, stay inspired, stay connected, and keep walking your pathway to well-being.